I'll be talking about his death and, of course, the investigation and the analysis pertaining to the so-called murder of Don Juan and Kosuke Nozaki. And this is Dinesh and the forensic investigation is an analysis from Bangalore, India. Yes, first let me go to the circumstances under which Kosuke Nozaki was found dead. So it was on 24th May 2018. Kosuke Nozaki was found dead in his bedroom on the sofa. And Sudo, his wife, did mention, our wife, her so-called girlfriend, did mention that he has been, she heard some noise in his bedroom, and when she went to investigate, he was found dead on his sofa. Funeral was done in the month of June. But what surprising and a strange thing was noted during the funeral. That is, during the process of funeral, the pseudo, instead of being emotional or empathy or the grief, was never seen in her face or in her attitude or her behavior. In the whole process of the funeral of Don Juan, people saw a strange behavior with Sudo. She was into her phone, continuously exchanging messages, surfing on the net. So, this strange behavior was further confirmed when one of the griefmongers they said that, "Are you feeling so hard because of the loss of a husband?" The reply came was, "Not really." So eventually, the family members of the Don Juan so suspected that Sudo might have done something or maybe a reason for the death of Kosuke Nozaki, but they never suspected it was a murder. But it was in the post-mortem examination, it clearly indicated that there were high level of stimulants and narcotic substances. So this raised the suspicion that indeed there is a possible murder angle in which this case has to be investigated. So eventually, a strange thing happened before the death of Kosuke Nozaki. That was, he had a very pet dog by name Eve. So he didn't had any children. So he was emotionally attached to Eve, and he was so much emotionally attached that he has made a will in which millions of dollars has to go in the name of Eve. So, and further strangeness, what we feel in this case is Eve was found dead mysteriously on 8th May 2018, that is nearly around some 16 days before the death of Don Juan. So the investigation was ordered, and during the investigation, and it was found that at the crime scene examination, that around the sofa, the floor with a vacuum cleaner, narcotic substance were found. So on July 30th, Miss Sudo, she called for a meeting and about the company which was belonged to Don Juan, and she took over as a director. And the strange thing was, none of the board members attended the meeting, and in their absence, she alone decided and created a meetings minutes of the meeting, and she took over the company. In the meantime, she transferred nearly 300,000 of dollars in her name. Sudo had made all arrangements to flee Japan, but unfortunately, because of the pandemic restrictions, she was unable to fly out of Japan, and she was held back in Tokyo. And further investigation pointed out that the housekeeper was staying in the working in the house for quite long years. He confessed that Miss Sudo has laced a cocktail of drink to Lusuke Nazaki, and it was given to him before his death. Don Juan was supposed to divorce Sudo because of the reason that she didn't want to come and stay with uh, Don Juan in Akiyama, because she insisted she wanted to stay in Tokyo, but he wanted her to stay in Akiyama, and this was the reason for conflict. And they were arguing on the divorce paper on the day of the death of Don Juan. I think that was the reason for which she has been arrested last week. Now we analyzing these circumstances. So one thing we want to know is that can this case really last? Definitely, this will be a very important cases. So usually we want to know that how this case can stand, because mere statement, mere finding of toxicological result. But in the investigation, it was also found that this Sudo, when the technical evidences were analyzed, that she has served the internet and she has made certain calls to the drug dealer a few weeks before the death of Don Juan. And beside this, in the location of the drug dealer and the location of Sudo matched the day where she procured the so-called narcotics substance. At the same time, she in the technical evidence also point out that Sudo made all efforts to study the poisons, the type of poisons, the way of administering poison, and the type of stimulants. So all this, she had made a research on this, and possibly the investigator believed that this was the reason that she wanted to execute the murder. So the investigators ordered the autopsy on the Eve, that is the pet dog. But since it was in a state of highly state of decomposition, they were able to recover a few traces of narcotics. But now let me analyze what are the important things in the crime scene examination which can help in the prosecution. The crime scene examination, the most important thing is, of course, this an allegation of narcotic substance or poisoning is there. The first thing is, have they retrieved any container in which the narcotic substance or the so-called uh, the stimulants or the poisons has been administered? Maybe a container, maybe a needle, maybe a syringe. So usually, where do we find this needle syringe? Maybe around the place where the body was lying, or maybe in the dustbins because somebody might have forced or concealed, or if it is the poison or the stimulant has been forced, that might have spilled. It should have been on the sofa. The sofa samples to be taken on the sofa where he was lying, or on the bed, or the mattresses, or on his clothes. And if it has been cleaned, of course, the vacuum cleaner. So this is all the ways where the evidence had to be looked. Apart from this, the CCTV has to be uh, taken into custody. Means the CCTV has to be seized. Apart from the laptop, the computers, and the telephone of Don Juan and also Sudo. Above all this, the biological evidence like the fingerprints and the DNA to rule out any other individual who has taken part apart from Sudo. So that will be a valid evidence. And of course, any footprints or any blood stains, the autopsy results. So the type of stimulants, the way it was administered, is there any external injury? Was it forced upon on Don Juan? So that's if it is a forced upon or has been restrained. So that will be a very good evidence to confirm the homicidal nature of this administering this poison or a stimulant. Apart from this, the quantitative and the qualitative type of narcotics or the stimulants are very important. That means, what is the dosage given? Is it a recreational use or is it a fatal dose? Means that is very important. The quantitative nature and that analysis need to be taken care by the forensic science laboratory. And above all, the disease, if the individual is been having the means pre-existing diseases, because certain people with the pre-existing diseases pertaining to the heart or the kidneys or maybe the lungs, even a small dosage with a failing liver can indeed lead to intoxication, and certain individuals with high dosage, depending on their habits before, that means have they been addicts or is they fresh to the drugs, so all these things have to be correlated, and that is definitely the systemic organic histopathological examination will definitely help. But in the toxicology examination, it is always advisable in cases of this nature that blood and urine, apart from blood and urine, and the routine viscera, stomach and liver and the kidneys and the spleen analysis for the toxicology. The most important is from the injection site and from the bile juices. So that's very important, because to know the drug metabolites, and also fat tissues and the muscular tissue. Pieces of fat tissue and muscular tissue need to be taken. Apart from the hair and nails are very important, because many of these drugs like cocaine, marijuana, so LSDs, they do have been present in those nails and hairs, so that those samples need to be collected. So now, what is the prosecutory evidences? The prosecutory evidences, the most important is, of course, the crime scene evidences are very helpful to corroborate with the evidences from the postmortem and also the statement of the witnesses. So that is to be taken care. The witness statements need to be recorded. And above all, the very important thing in this case is the proving the guilt of Miss Sudo, because our major line of defense is, yes, I saw him slumping on the in the sofa. That was his our statement at the present state. That is what she states. But she may add up to this. She may add up to this. That is, she may defend herself, saying that yes, he has consumed, he was in the habit of consuming the narcotic substance, and that was the day where he might have consumed more. Or she may fidge in ignorance, telling that yes, she is not aware of the narcotic substance which he may have consumed. So that may be her defense. And she said she had never administered it. So to prove that she has administered the narcotic substance, it's a hard and the most challenging task in this particular case for the investigating officer. Though there may be an existence of narcotic substance or a stimulants, or that stimulants or narcotic substance may be the reason for death, but it's hard to prove that Miss Sudo has indeed administered the drug. So this is the challenging substance. But this can be supported, or the investigating officer can, if they can prove that she indeed procured the amount she procured, the type of drug she procured, which if it is confirmed by the supplier, and if the same drug has been found in, which can be correlated with the statement given by the witnesses that she had administered and he has seen that, I think that will be a very good piece of evidence to prosecute Ms. Sudo.